Hey everybody, this is Colin G. Murphy and welcome to show 61 of Colin podcasting about real estate. Hope you guys are doing good. I am still loving life here in Madrid, Spain while running the Florida fix and flip and land flipping business. I'm busy on both fronts. I get asked about the market regularly by people about whether I think it's peaking, whether I think a crash is around the corner. So I'll talk about that very briefly. Every month I analyze, a number of key metrics in the markets I purchase in, which is particularly the Tampa Bay area in Florida. And I'm still not seeing any signs of a slowdown. The volume of sales has ticked up a little bit, but the median sales prices per square foot are still going up very fast. Prices are still going up and up and up. Median close prices are in my area, they went from $190,000 in January of 2021 to $230,000 in August of 2021. That's a huge jump. That's a very, very big 20% plus jump. But they're closing quickly. Days to close has gone from like 55 days to 46 days. Properties are still going under market on average in 7 days or less. So it's still a hugely competitive market. But that being said, it's probably a gut feeling more than anything else. I've started to take some additional measures with the properties in my pipeline. I've started making it a little bit easier for them to sell. I've started adding a couple of bells and whistles just in case things slow down. I want mine to be in the top 5%. So I'm doing things like spending a little bit more on curb appeal, with some extra plants and mulch out front. I'm putting stainless steel appliances instead of black appliances. If I have properties in flood zone, I'm just getting ahead of things by ordering an elevation cert in advance so that they can get their insurance quote that little bit quicker and don't delay things. So I'm just spending a bit extra on those fans, on the landscaping, on the fences. But again, the prices are going up so fast that the extra cost of those things is compensated, within literally a few weeks of appreciation. We're only talking about a couple of $1,000s here in maybe a $240,000 house. So, for me, it's worth it. And if things do start slowing down, you don't want to get caught with a house that's that little bit scruffier or whatever it is. So other things I do is I always get professional photos. So like from a professional photographer, and not just the photos, I also get drone shots. And I also get Matterport, which is the virtual tour where you can walk through the house. I also make sure the houses are professionally cleaned by a professional cleaning crew before listing them, and I send them back every 4 weeks or so to freshen the place up a bit. So those little tips can help a lot if you're trying to sell a house quickly. If you don't want it sitting in the market 40 days before a contract, if you want it sitting on the market 4 days, those are the kinds of things you need to be doing. And of course, with vacant land, you don't really need to worry about any of that. You just get it under contract. You find out what, like I'm saying, putting stuff under contract at 40 cents on the dollar, listing it at 80 cents on the dollar. I really enjoy that business model. I've started to get some momentum. I've had 6 deals so far in October, and we're only at the start of the 3rd week in October. So the kind of acceleration I did in my marketing a month or two ago is starting to show some results, and I'm going to keep my foot on that pedal for the next 4 or 5 months to see how many deals I can get done. Next week, I'm going to be interviewing range of assistants that can help me with the administration and the running of that land side of the business. So it's a lot of fun. But the big money is still on the flipping houses. Land is great. Land is kind of $8,000 to $10,000 per flip at the moment. But there's some good scale there, and there's some good deals to be done with the owner finance. So I've got, I think 4 owner finance notes up and running at the minute, paying an average of $250 each. So that's like $1,000 a month coming in, which is similar to a handful of mortgaged rental properties, really, except I'm not dealing with any of the hassle of being a landlord for that. I'm dealing with the hassle of being a landlord for for other properties, but those 4 notes, I like how that's looking, and I'd like it even more if I can get that to 10 and 20 and 30 and 40 and 50 notes in the next year or two. So there's real income streams to be made there. But so that's where I am at the minute. The market is still super strong, but I am taking steps to make sure my houses are easier to sell. I am spending a little bit more than I potentially need to on things just to make sure I'm ahead of the game when the inevitable slowdown happens. And it might not happen might happen in 2 quarters, it might happen in 6 quarters. I really don't know. Nobody knows, but I'm going to be prepared for it. But I'm still going to obviously continue buying and selling when I see a good deal. But, getting away from all of that market rambling, you guys are tuning in for the podcast and the podcast guests. I have a really good one this episode. Real self-taught entrepreneur running multiple businesses. This guy used to be a professional hockey player. He played in professional leagues in the US and Europe for 8 years. Pretty much all of his 20s, he was a professional hockey player, and then he became a real estate investor in his early 30s and kind of started from the ground up. His name is Bob Lachance. He used to play for the St. Louis Blues when he was a young man, but after his hockey career ended, like I said, at the age of 29, he dove deep into real estate. This would have been back in 2004 or so. He literally started knocking on doors for the local big shot wholesaler and kind of learned from him and later partnered with him, and through a series of smart partnerships and resilient kind of business models, he traded through that super turbulent period, that 2004 to 2010 period. And fast forward to 2021, he's still doing 10 deals a month, a lot of wholesaling deals, so kind of putting stuff under contract, assigning them to other people for a quick $20,000 profit. He works with dozens and dozens of virtual assistants that are making hundreds of phone calls from him to try and find those motivated sellers. He's also the founder of both REVA Global, which is a large virtual assistant company, literally 500 plus virtual assistants, and FortuneBuilders, which is a well-known coaching program. So he's a very interesting story, Bob Lachance, and I was delighted to speak to him about it. This is a great episode if anybody, well, number one, you like an interesting story like I do, but number two, if you'd like to learn more about how you can harness the power of virtual assistants to increase just your general productivity and your quality of life in a host of areas, including but not limited to real estate. So check it out. Let's head on over and see what Bob has to say, and I'll catch you again at the end of the show. Bob Lachance, how you doing? Welcome to the show.
Very good, Colin. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
It's my pleasure. So listen, why don't we dig straight in? Why don't you tell us a bit about yourself, starting with your early days?
Now we're going way back, Colin. We're going way back. A little bit further than I wanted to go. Just how I got started. I'll give you a quick little story how I got started. I played professional hockey for 8 years.
Wow.
And when I actually left, I kind of, was going through a little bit of if you know many athletes, I'm sure you played athletics growing up, but a lot of athletes kind of have a really tough transition on what they're going to do after sports, right?
Mm-hmm.
No matter what level, it doesn't matter. Go through, you're with all the guys or girls, whoever you're playing that sport with, and then you have to figure out, what kind of industry is going to give you that same feeling. So it's pretty tough to do.
It's a big ask. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a huge ask. My decision actually really was dictated because I went to Boston University for 4 years, but I left 2 classes short of getting my degree. So it was either I'm going to go back to school or I'm going to jump into an industry that doesn't have any barriers of entry. So, towards the end of my career, kind of felt like it was coming because my wife was still living in the United States when I was in Europe. So I decided, hey, might as well start reading some books on different types of things. Then I read, just like many people, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, kind of got hooked on that whole real estate concept. Started reading books on apartments, single families, the whole 9 yards. And then I just bought a course. Guy's name was Dave Wisnett. He's an attorney, but an investor.
Okay.
And it was all about real estate, but nothing in particular. So got that course. And when I retired, I decided that I was going to be a rehabber. Again, I knew nothing.
Give us a bit of context here. What age were you when you retired, and when was that, roughly speaking?
I was 29 years old. So I played in, like I said, 4 years here in the United States, 4 years in Europe. And then, I actually missed my first son's birthday or actually birth when I was on a flight to Belarus. And So, you know, at that point, I kind of was like, all right, now enough's enough. I got to turn the page. I got to turn the page. So, yeah, I was 29 years old. It's 2004.
Okay. So yeah, I mean,
yeah.
so I guess a lot of people were talking about how great real estate is in 2004. That was a real boom in Europe, in the US, a lot of other Western countries as well. And maybe I'm misleading, but I'm thinking for a lot of professional sports people that they don't have the bandwidth to think about anything else other than their sport when they're doing it, and then when they retire, it's kind of, okay, what do I do next? Or were you smarter than that you were kind of planning the transition way back, or was it just like an abrupt kind of one weekend to the next?
I have to say a little bit. I can't say I was smart enough to know that, because when you're with all the guys, you're still thinking, you're not talking about business, right? You're not talking, hey, here's what's going on, because your network gets smaller and smaller and smaller. I left the United States, and you're not talking to the individuals that you're going to be working with later as well, or the contacts that you're going to have, because my plan was to go back to the United States and start working. One of the things that I did start planning for 2 years prior to me retiring, was I did know either I was going to go back to school, or I had to specifically jump into a different niche. And real estate always appealed to me. My father was a contractor growing up. So I was at least exposed to it. I was more of a gopher, though, to be honest with you. So my father would say, hey, go for this, instead of, doing a lot of manual labor. I started driving when I was 14 years old. Yeah. So, so it's pretty interesting. So when I retired, I jumped in with 2 feet, started farming areas, started making offers. Again, I was a rehabber, but I had limited capital put away. I didn't have any contractor, so I knew nothing about rehabbing. But you know what? I put a contractor stamp on my shoulder, or a rehabber on my shoulder. So I ran with that, started making some offers. First deal I bought, I got lucky. Property was listed in the MLS. I was listed for, I think it was about 185. I put an offer for 135. They accepted it. And I was like, it was really exciting. However, I looked in the mirror and I was nervous as you know what, because, when you don't have contractors set up, and you don't have a boatload of money put away in the bank, you got to scramble a little bit, right?
You do. What market are we talking about? Where were you? What market did you buy that 135 house?
Yeah, West Hartford, Connecticut. Now that same house is probably $300,000-$400,000, right? That same exact property. But hey, it's all relative, right? So I ended up scrambling. I found contractors, found money, rehabbed it, went back and forth to Home Depot about 1 billion times, right?
Yeah. So real rite of passage, you go back there 50 times more than you, compared to the guys that have done 50 deals.
That's right. With zero systems, right? You don't know anything, but it was a great experience. Ended up rehabbing it in 1 month, put it on the market, closed a month later, made $32,000. Fantastic.
Great.
But I also realized I had no other properties. I had no systems. I realized, I didn't even know what marketing was. So I joined a local real estate investment association, got involved, or didn't get involved. I actually saw a speaker speak on the pre-foreclosure industry. And again, I think I would have bought anything, right? So guy by the name of Jeff Collar.
And was this before the foreclosure crisis that you're looking at pre-foreclosures?
It's still in 2004. Yes, 2004. So right after that, bought that course and walked around after I bought that course. The next meeting, I walked up to probably about 90% of the members there. And I said, who's the best individual in short sales in the state of Connecticut, which I lived in? And they pointed to the same guy. His name is Pat Precourt. Walked up to him and said, Pat, you have no idea who I am. I'm not asking for a penny, but do you have any openings? I will do absolutely anything. So he said, you know what? I'm looking for a door knocker. So for those of you who don't know what door knocking is, literally, he gave me a list of people who were losing their houses in pre-foreclosure that weren't paying their mortgage. And I would drive from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. knocking on doors with a script that he gave me just to see if they're interested in selling their house. So
wow. How did that go? I mean, that takes a lot of resilience and
It does.
Persistence.
It is very nerve-wracking, especially when you have never taken public speaking and you're, going door to door speaking on a script that you just had to practice in a mirror. So it's a little different. Nowadays it's a little bit different where you could cold call, you could text message, you could do all this other stuff rather than going door to door. But my thought process was I want to learn this business from ground up. I got the door slammed in my face a couple times, but I chalked it up as, hey, it can't be any worse than losing 9-1 in a national championship game in sports than someone closing a door in your face or losing in a championship game. So hey, you know what?
And what kind of deal did you have with this guy? I mean, I guess after a few hundred doors, you must have got a deal or two for him, or that he could close. So what kind of system did you work out where he'd give you a percentage of the deal, or how did that work?
So we didn't have any agreement at all. I just knew that, hey, I'm gonna learn from ground up, and if it doesn't work out, and again, I did have a little money put away. I just made $32,000 on that flip. So. And I put some money away from hockey, of course. So I had a little bit of money. My wife was working as well.
Okay.
But I did not have a deal. We did not talk about it. I just knew, I'm the type of person who knows if you give, you will get back. So always give first. I've always been that type of person.
Yeah. Especially with really successful guys like that they didn't get there by, being a-holes for everybody else.
Exactly. So you fast forward a year later. I don't know how many transactions we did. Him and I ended up becoming business partners, learned business from door knocking. I hired someone to take my spot. Then I negotiated with banks, and then hired someone to take my spot. And then, the same trajectory of business owners that they do this task first, they outsource it, etc. And then in 2006, we started our first real estate coaching program, which revolved around short sales. Yeah. This is back in the day. So we taught around the country on short sales. We partnered with a company out of Florida. And then in 2007, we actually got approached by our buddies here in Connecticut, Dan Merrill, Paul Asasian, and Conrad from FortuneBuilders. So
I'm just curious about the short sale market in 2006, because real estate prices were going up like 20% a year. Why would anybody need to short sale? I mean, why didn't they just sell the house if they couldn't pay the mortgage?
There was still a ton of properties that are overdebted, a ton. Yep. So we had, I think we successfully did probably over 1,000 something short sale transactions, in the peak. So it's pretty good. So we had a lot of volume. We were a pretty big volume player. We would also,
and by short sale transaction, do you mean that you bought the property from the owner for less than the mortgage was worth, and then you turned around and flipped it to somebody else for a profit?
Correct. Yep.
And did you own the houses, or was it more just like passing on the paper, signing it? I mean, how did that?
Yeah,
that's a big money.
So back in the day, it was pretty interesting. We could do simultaneous closings. We used land trust back in the day. Without getting into it, the owner would put their property into a land trust, and then we would actually negotiate it down, and we would assign the beneficial interest to that land trust. It was some interesting,
convoluted.
Yeah. And then obviously when the bubble hit, title companies did not allow that to happen. I think in some areas right now they may be using them. I no longer use land trusts any longer. But anyway, that's the way it was back in the day.
That's good. So you're able to do a lot of deals, but without having to actually own millions of dollars of property.
Correct. So it's really equivalent to wholesaling, kind of, right? To where you don't have to fund it out, to where you're just selling the rights to your paper. I know it's not wholesaling. So if you're listening to this, don't call me out and say, hey, wholesaling is not like short sales. I understand that. I'm just making a quick example, but
definitely a few similarities. So it sounds like you got some good experience in kind of building teams where you I want to move up from the door knocking. I want to move up from the negotiation. I mean, are you able to tell us about the lessons you learned there on building teams and what kind of teams you did build?
Yeah, for sure. And I am the type of person, whoever knows me, I have to experience it first to be able to, later on I sold on stage as well, but I couldn't sell unless I either use that service or I've actually done it,
Okay.
So I think it's really important to understand it and master it. And while you're actually doing it, one of the lessons I did learn was make sure you document everything along the way, just like you're going to create a business to sell it. So, my business partner at the time, that's what he taught me. He said, listen, everything that you're doing every day, make sure you document it. So through that process, we created what's called the short sale flagship system. It was a book of, I don't know, 4 or 5 different kind of manuals that we put together, all the way from acquisitions to marketing, et cetera, to negotiating. We created all the scripts in it. So one of the things that I've learned is when you go through that process and you put all of that together, you could then remove yourself and pass it off to somebody else. Because as we all know, training is a very big headache for a lot of individuals and a lot of business owners.
Yeah.
So if you can actually create that while you're doing it, you're going to be 10 times better off, not only when you're scaling your business, or even when you're hiring one person at a time.
I found that myself. We scaled from, doing 10 flips a year to 100 flips a year. And I had a business partner that was just somehow able to like keep 18 renovations in his head and a small spreadsheet at once. And he tried to kind of get other guys to do it, but normal people can't keep 18 renovations in their head. And like I said, we didn't have it all documented. We didn't have it all systemized. Could have just hired 2 people to do it or 3 people to do it. But I guess that happens to a lot of business owners. They're super smart, super motivated, and they have all that osmosis from knowledge they've kind of learned over the years and sucked up. But if you don't document it, you kind of trap yourself in those tasks, for a very long time.
Yep, absolutely. And that's one of the things, to answer your question. That's what I learned through that process. And a big takeaway, I think everyone should take that away from what they do on a daily basis. Doesn't matter what industry it is, if it's real estate or whatever it is, it's important to take those steps. So in 2007, anyway, we got approached by some of our good buddies in Connecticut, and they decided to start a coaching program, but they've never run a coaching program. And Pat and I were running one, with that company out of Florida. Okay. So we decided to partner up with these guys, and it ended up being one of the biggest real estate education companies in the country, called FortuneBuilders. So we were running the back end. I was responsible for, building up the coaching program, hiring the coaches, training them. Pat was delivering also the coaching. We created a curriculum all together. And then through the years, while we're flipping, wholesaling, doing all that stuff, we're also running a coaching program. And then in 2013, I got introduced to what a virtual assistant was. And I'm like, this is pretty interesting. And I was looking for a bunch of years, different services or products, not only for my own business, but to help service our coaching students, because a lot of coaching students had.
And what were you coaching them on? I mean, what was it, like flipping houses, wholesaling houses? What?
All of that. So
how did that work out during the crash? Because that turned everything upside down. We just kind of fast forwarded there from 2008 to 2013.
Yeah.
What kind of?
I'm from Connecticut. I talk fast. Yeah. All right. I'll back into that. So we actually launched FortuneBuilders right at that 2007, 2008 when the crash started happening. So what we decided to do in the model, it was a live events company. Okay. So we'd go from first started actually going from REA group to REA group. All those leads would come into a sales floor. Sales floor would obviously hammer the phones and sell a coaching program. And then 2009, 2010, we started doing live events more in different parts of the country. And at that time, it started getting, obviously the crash was kind of here. However, the opportunity in real estate, if you could find money, was going up. Yes. Prices were really low. So again, I mean, we know this. It's all how everything's spun in this world, right? There's always going to be buyers for real estate, whether it's education or real estate. That's one of the industries, it's always going to be there forever, I believe, unless, certain things happen. But so anyway, that's what we did. And then we ended up, at one point we had over 100 new students a week. So it was a pretty high volume company, and offered a fantastic product. And we focused on service. We focused on coaching and helping and making sure that everybody, there's a lot of different coaching programs out there. And I'm a
Sure.
huge fan, and I truly believe that everybody should get a coach. I spend a lot of money, or let me rephrase, I invest a lot of resources and money in coaching. And I also believe that everybody should as well. I'm part of a bunch of masterminds now, and I have some coaches as well that help me on a daily basis, even though I've been doing this since 2004.
I completely agree with you. I mean, you look at any elite athlete, for example, Roger Federer's got a coach, LeBron James has got a coach. I mean, everybody, all the top CEOs have got coaches, and I know, our company didn't start making proper money until we started, like you say, hanging out in the masterminds, talking to people that were further up from us, that were able to hand down advice, and it was transformational. And I couldn't agree with what you say more. Coaches are vital for success. Masterminds are a great way to hang around with people that can move you much faster up that ladder that you're trying to climb.
Yeah, and there's always someone better than you. If I always say, if I look at myself and I think I'm the best, that's when my trajectory is going down, because there's always someone out there that's better than you, right? And again, that's how I've always felt, whether it's sports or business. If you feel like you can't learn anymore, it's time to change an industry, I think. So yeah,
time to pivot. And speaking of pivot, so like I never heard of VAs until, I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 years ago, like maybe 2016 or 2017, it started becoming into my world. I'm sure they existed before that, but they've really become a very big deal. Most of the people I know who do well in real estate use VAs. So talk to us a little bit how your career pivoted into the VA space and how you kind of got involved with that.
Absolutely. So they said 2013, I was looking for different types of services to add into our coaching program, because there was a huge void, and that void, just like you in your business, when you're extremely busy, you have tasks that fall by the wayside. So same thing with our students. We had, again, part-time working students and full-time working students, and they, the homework assignments we would give them, or action items we would give them, they couldn't fulfill them within 2 weeks because they just got busy and they had too many things that were going on. So I was searching for years to find a service that worked. And then 2013, I got introduced to virtual assistants, and then boom, a light bulb went on. I'm like, there's a business there. So, I took my training background and the fact that the virtual assistant industry was out there. I'm like, let me test this for a year. I had a business partner back in the day. This is 2014. We launched our first company. This is out of the Philippines. So, there's a lot of moving parts on getting incorporated in another country, moving money over there. There's a lot of different things that you have to, you have to create that type of business with the right team, etc. So, tested it from 2014, 2015 to make sure that it was actually something that individual investors wanted and needed, and so it just took off from
this
there.
Is you having a VA business so that you can help like people like your students to use VAs to scale up their own businesses.
Exactly. And knowing the tasks that I do in my own real estate business, that's how we created the training. Was exactly what I was doing in my real estate business is what we created the training on how to actually VAs to get started. So I'm a huge believer on, if there's any company out there, and not every company does this, but I think it's very important that if you're going to either sell something or you have a service, make sure you use your service. I think it's really important. Even when I was selling on stage back in 06, 07, Pat, my business partner, and I created a short sell flagship system. When I was selling on stage, it's because I was doing the business to be able to, give it. So I for anyone who knows me or listens to this, I think it's really important, really, really important to, vet any company to make sure that they're using their service, right? I know a lot of people don't do that, but it's just a little tidbit there.
It makes complete sense to me. So what kinds of tasks did you use VAs for? And what kinds of tasks did you, in your clients use the VAs you introduced them to for?
But at the beginning, this is going back, 2014. The market's changed a lot, right?
Right.
So
Okay.
2014, we all know right now, because a lot of our clients were wholesalers. So it started first with, I always like to say there's three legs of wholesaling, right? Building a buyer's list. If you don't have a buyer's list in wholesaling, you don't have a business, because who are you going to sell to? So the first task would have the virtual assistant building a buyer's list. Second would be marketing, because you cannot be in business without leads coming in, offers to be made, etc. So, and then the last one's negotiating. So those three legs of wholesaling are those. So it would be building a buyer's list, then marketing. Now, again, it's different today a little bit, because
talk to us about that. How has it evolved, and what's the current landscape like?
there's a lot more, there's easier ways to get lists. There's list providers like RealFlow, where you could actually download a list. There's skip tracing services where you could actually put it into a skip trace service and it's going to spit out all the phone numbers, right? Back in the day, you didn't have that, right? It was a lot more difficult to be able to do that. You get sites now like REI Automator, PropStream, etc., that could actually give you that data. So now you get the data, you get them skip traced. Now you actually have to go to the sellers directly with them. So you're either going to cold call, text message, direct mail. A lot of people do PPC, etc. But all that can outsource now to virtual assistants to actually drive leads into your business.
They can manage those marketing campaigns for you with the, like you say, the voicemails, the messages, the pay-per-click advertising, the postcards, whatever it might be. Okay. And what other tasks are VAs good for in a real estate related business, whether you're looking to hold rentals or wholesale deals or flip houses? I mean, what should people be thinking about now that they can outsource to VAs?
So anyway, a lot of those tasks, and I break it down in this way. If you have $10 an hour tasks that you're doing, then it's pretty much going to equate to a $10 an hour bank account. So what I would do is look at those tasks in your business. You may realize that you're posting too much on social media, you're scrolling through social media, you're looking at your emails too much, you may be hammering the phones too much on upfront calls. So I'll give you an example of my office here. Like I said before we jumped on a call, we just closed, I think, our 110th transaction, and we do here in our office. And we use our virtual assistants primarily to drive in leads and to follow up and to do branding for our company. So what that means is we use different systems like PropStream as an example, and RealFlow, where we download the list, we skip trace it, we upload it into a dialer, and our virtual assistants call to gauge seller motivation. So what we want them to do, the only thing we want them to do is get someone on the phone that says, hey, I'm interested in selling my house. And we're like, all right, perfect. Now you could talk to our acquisition team, etc. We use Podio and Salesforce. So as soon as our virtual assistant team actually gets a prospect, they fill out a form, it goes to our acquisition team, and that's when our acquisition team takes it from there and decides how we're going to make money on it. And then we have another set of virtual assistants as well that do follow-up. So lead managers, we have thousands and thousands of leads inside our database, and our virtual assistants follow up with them on a daily basis. So we have 2 virtual assistants that do that in our business. We also have another way we use our virtual assistants is now that pre-foreclosures or properties that are overdeaded are coming back to the market, because obviously we went through a little lull in there where there was a moratorium. So obviously a lot of states put a pause on all that, but now that they're back in, I'm going to be implementing a virtual assistant to go back into our database and our Secretary of State website, where they have all of our foreclosures, to comb all of those. We set up a pretty cool system that we had. This is before the pandemic. We had a VA go in there, pull all the sale dates that happened, skip trace, and also call them to see if someone's interested in selling before the bank takes the property back. We're going to implement that system as well. We also have some cool other systems that virtual assistants do, like a Zillow offer system, Craigslist offer system, things like that. So
What do you mean by
I
Zillow? What's a Zillow offer system? Is that where they like for sale by owners on Zillow, or what do you mean?
Exactly. So what you do is you go into Zillow, you scrape Zillow, you look for, for rents, anything for
Okay.
sale. Our VAs pull it up and go through a script to see if they're interested in selling.
And you
obviously
mentioned you've done 110 deals. Is that this year, like in 2021 so far?
That's 2021. Yep.
That's fantastic. And can you talk us through like one kind of typical deal in terms of what you secure it for, what you do to add value and sell it on? I'm very curious about what kind of margins are in those types of deals.
Yeah, I'll give you an example. So we're in about 11 markets right now around the country. We're pretty good here. So I'll give you an example. So we just closed on, I think it was 6 or 7 deals last week in Arkansas. So what we do first, just like I said in wholesaling, we found a buyer and we know what their buy box is. So they buy within this level, let's say it's year 2000 or above, needs to be in this condition, how many beds, how many baths, etc. So that's what I mean by buy box. They won't buy anything that's going to be out of this area or out of this area. So first what we did is we went out and found our buyer. And then what we did is we used my virtual assistants. I bought the data through REI Automator, and then skip traced it also through REI Automator. Loaded it up into the dialer that we used, and our virtual assistants just hammer the phones all day long. And then once they drive in leads, we probably get, I got to check exactly how many VAs we use, but I think we use about 5 virtual assistants per day cold calling. So I think we get about 15 to 20 new leads a day on that one channel alone. Which
how many phone calls are these 5 VAs making every day to get you those 10 or 15 leads?
So on average, I believe I got to check my stats because I have a meeting actually later today to see what those stats look like. But on average, they're about, I could be off by a couple numbers, but they're about 600 dials per day per agent.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah.
And so once you get a deal, what might it look like? Are you getting it for 200,000 and assigning it for 220, or what are we looking at here for?
Yeah, our average deal. Yeah, our average deal right now. This is if it's not in Connecticut. No one's in Connecticut. Like we just closed on a deal action.
A little bit higher end.
Yeah, a little for 25,000 in Massachusetts. I'm in Connecticut though. We do, like I said, Arkansas. I think our average is about 12, maybe. I got to check that as well. I could be off by 1 or 2. In Connecticut's usually about 27 to 30.
Wow.
Yep.
Yeah. So you're not really putting a huge amount of capital at risk here. Typically, you're just paying the money for all that marketing and the VA time, and then you're just kind of doing stuff simultaneously one way or another.
Yeah, and again, we use, and I'm big on, we're fortunate, obviously, I own a virtual assistant company, but, we train them on exactly what we do in our office. And I think it's very, very important because, part like we talked about before, I'm part of a bunch of masterminds and, we talk a lot about different stuff with, individuals that have a company way better than our company on the real estate side. They may be closing 200, 300, 400 properties, but we talk about these systems and they use a lot of our VAs and a lot of our systems to do exactly what we're talking about.
Wow. So do you, like your VA company, do you have clients that are like mom and pop operations up to those big guys that do like a couple of 100 deals a year? Yep.
100%. Yeah, it
ranges. And are you already training them are they already have like basic training in real estate in terms of like skip tracing and looking up comps and contracts or whatever else? Are they coming kind of qualified to your customers?
That's exactly right. Yeah, we have a manager that manages the relationship between the client and the virtual assistant as well. So on top of that, so they go through 3 weeks to 4 weeks of training before they're ready for a client.
That's amazing. So are they, like, if I'm an operation and I want to hire a VA for my flipping business or my real estate business, are they expensive? What kind of money are we talking about for like part-time, full-time VAs?
Yeah, we have a standard $10.60 an hour, just very, very standard that comes with, like I said, we do disc profiling, we do predictive index profiling as well. So exactly who you have coming on your team. So very, very standard. We have a lot of benefits. We pay for their insurance behind the scenes as well. We have probably the highest stick rate as far as virtual assistant client relationships in the industry, which is very, very important for us. We also have continuing training, et cetera, that we also offer to our virtual assistants.
Wow. So how many VAs have you got in your business at the minute that are able to do work for your clients?
Yep. We have around, as of today, again, I'm usually, I'm very close to all my numbers, but I think today we're at about 590 virtual assistants nationwide.
Wow, that's impressive. That's a big business.
It is. And it's, but we have a great team. It's, you know, I'm the one talking, but you're only as good as the team that you have, right? In anything, whether it's real estate, I have my real estate team literally out there. I have my virtual assistant team. We're out of the Philippines. And the way I look at it, you're only as good as your team, right? You could be, the fastest talker in the world or the smoothest talker in the world. It doesn't mean you run a good business, right? You have to actually, you have to stand behind what you do. I'm out there right in front. A lot of our clients are mastermind members, and you know, you have to stand there and present and you know, stand up in front of everybody and be the face of it. And if things go well, it's great. If things don't go well, you have to, you know, you have to own up to it, just like any business, right?
Hey, everybody makes mistakes, and the bigger you get, the more people see the mistakes you make. So it's the way it is, unfortunately.
It's part of the game, right? It's part of business.
It's part of the game. And I'm just curious, how do you actually manage? Like, I've never run multiple businesses. I mean, you got your VA business, you got your coaching business, you're doing a bunch of real estate deals as well. I mean, how do you divide that up? I mean, you just like 8 a.m. to 11 a.m. is this one, 11 to 3 is that one? I mean, how do you actually manage that? It seems
very good question.
So hard.
Very good. Yeah, the coaching side, I actually backed away about, I think it's 8 or 9 months ago right now. So that is no longer on the plate. However, my real estate company and my virtual assistant company. So I do a lot of my virtual assistant meetings in the morning. And I'm very good at multitasking. I have an incredible partner on both sides of it. On my VA business, I have an incredible partner. In my real estate company, I have an incredible partner, but they all come with, we've done a very good job at bringing on the team members as well to take care of some of the different things that we actually do. In any business, there's different roles that you have to hire for. And one of the things that we've realized through the years is hiring is extremely, extremely important, right? Because one bad hire can ruin the whole bunch. And we've gotten better and better at bringing on the right people to be able to grow and expand. We're all in a lucky time right now. We are, and I'm going to knock on wood, but we're in a very lucky time right now where real estate's good to us, right? And for me personally, if real estate is good to us, my virtual assistant business is good because a lot of my clients are real estate clients, right? Whether they're property managers, whether they're investors, wholesalers. I have a bunch of realtors as well that cover, you know, all the real estate professional side. We also have a very successful medical side as well that my wife runs. We call it REVA Med VA. So it's that's actually expanding a lot because I don't know if
helping doctors with their billing systems and things like that.
Yeah, insurance, prior authorizations, insurance verification, things like that.
It's amazing how many businesses VAs can help. I mean, you know, there's a lot they can do in real estate for sure. With the tools we have nowadays that we didn't have 10 years ago, they don't need to be in your office under your nose. That's for sure.
And the other thing is, I mean, some of these states' minimum wage keeps going higher and higher and higher and higher. You know, I just sold a used appliance company. Now, if anyone's listened to this, I'll tell you an industry not to get into. That's used appliance company. Don't buy into a used appliance company. So, but my as an example, my cleaner, we were paying $12 and I think 50 cents an hour, and you couldn't get good individuals that will show up to work for $12.50 an hour. Yeah. Right. So what do you expect to get in this country for $12? And half the time, we know what happened. I mean, people.
You need to hire 20 to find one that's a gem, and 2 or 3 that are fine. I guess.
Exactly. So that's why outsourcing is way more appealing right now, right? Going to different countries, and they show up to work, they work their butt off, they drive whatever task that you want them to do. They do it at a high level. So that's the reason why, right now for us, it's been very, very good.
Yeah, that's amazing. So what's your goal? It seems like you're so busy in so many different fronts. I mean, you just loving the action, you're just going to keep doing, or do you have like a thing where, no, when I'm 55, I'm out of here, I'm going to the Bahamas, or what is it that kind of keeps driving you to work so hard?
Yeah, I enjoy what I do. I love what I do. I mean, and one of the things, and if I break up 2 of them, one goal on the real estate side, and we were talking about this before we jumped on this call, was start building and buying and holding, right? If you and I started doing that back in the day, we probably would have had 500 doors each, right? Maybe even more. Yeah. But that's something that is a big thing that I'm going to start doing. And it's more of legacy and what you could leave to your kids. I have 3 kids, and what we teach them on a daily basis in reference to, not only, first and foremost, it starts with hard work, right? If you don't teach your family that you work hard, what are they going to do? They're going to think you don't work at all. They're going to think that life is easy. They're not going to know how to, when you get knocked down, how do you get back up? So that's one of the things on the real estate side. I mean, I've loved real estate forever. So I don't see myself ever not doing it. On the virtual assistant side, the most gratifying thing that we have is, when you help one family that we hire and they bring on, they work underneath us, it's a trickle down effect. You not only help that family, but they help pay for a lot of them, live with their families, and we help feed, a lot of people underneath. Not only that is, when you have one virtual assistant you bring on, they have one client here in the United States, our team member virtual assistant is helping that one client reach their goals as well, which is trickle down effect that helps, so many different individuals underneath that. So that's really one of the driving passions for me, on both sides of it. It's really just giving, helping. And this may sound weird, but back in the day when I played hockey, I was more of an assist guy, and I would always, didn't matter if I set you up to score 3 goals. I didn't care. I was happy for you. Whether my name was in the newspaper or not, I really didn't give a crap at all.
That's great advice. And I agree with that. That's a rewindable little segment there. I would encourage people to do that. There's a lot of wisdom in that little snippet. And I would echo a lot of that. I love the fact that I'm hiring a lot of people to fix up a nice house that's going to be a home for a family, and a VA might have helped me find that lead in the first place, is getting money for their family. And there's a huge amount of trickle down effects you can have from being involved in real estate. And I'd love, do you have any kind of final kind of actionable tips you can have for people that just generally want to take more control of their financial future and wealth, but just might be a little intimidated by this kind of digital world that the kind of top real estate people are in nowadays?
Yeah, I would say don't believe half the stuff you see. I've been in this industry for a long time. If someone's going to post a picture next to a Lamborghini or something like that, because I've known a lot of people that actually said, hey, could I borrow, someone else's car over there and take a picture near it? Just don't believe everything you see. Unfortunately, we're in a world, in a social media world, where, you just don't know what's true and what's not. I've seen people speak on stage, which I knew them very well, and they were a competitor of mine, saying they had 2,000 VAs, and I knew that wasn't true. But just don't do that stuff. Just don't believe everything you see. Just ask. If you see me, ask me. Do your research on me, as an example, right? Just you're welcome to come to my office. I think it's just more on the side of, just be aware. It's like always, buyer beware. Ask for references, just like we've always taught all the way back in the day. And just be a real person for you too. When you're posting and you are actually doing stuff on social media, just be accurate with what you're talking about. I think you will get further in life if you're more accurate, because people will believe you, trust you, and people will buy from people they like.
They do. And if you're authentic, you'll attract other people that are authentic. And if you're kind of a slick, smooth hustler, you'll attract those kinds of people too. And you got to decide which one you want to be, right?
Yep, exactly.
That's so cool. Well, thank you so much, Bob. This has been a lot of fun talking about you. How can our listeners find out more about you and your companies? I'm sure a lot of them will want to look into this VA business.
Absolutely. Yeah, we're on social media. You can check out our website at revaglobal.com. That's REVA global.com.
Mm-hmm.
You can send me an email, bob@revaglobal.com. We're on Instagram. We're on Facebook. We're all over the place. Send me a direct email. Check us out. If you have any questions at all, I think we're even on YouTube probably, but you can check it out.
Probably. VA's put it up there for you.
That's exactly right. Exactly right.
Well, I'll get all that in the show notes either way, Bob. It's been a pleasure talking to you. I hope we can stay in touch, and yeah, enjoy the rest of your day.
Awesome, Colin. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
There you go, folks. That was Bob Lachance on Colin Podcasting About Real Estate, show 61. I hope you enjoyed Bob's story. I certainly did. You got to admire his resilience, his get up and go, the major reinvention he had to make transitioning from, a professional hockey player to becoming a real estate investor. It must be difficult when you're used to, traveling with your team, staying in nice hotels, playing big games, getting lots of adulation from the fans, to just starting at the very bottom, literally knocking on doors, on the behest of a wholesaler that asks you to go and knock on 100 doors to find one deal. And just imagine all of the toughness and rejection you'd have to put up with there. That's a tough gig. You think cold calling is hard, try knocking on doors. It's a whole other level. So I admire that grit and determination, number one, but number two, that he quickly accelerated past that. He's clearly very good at forming partnerships, at working with people, at assembling and motivating teams, at having teams running autonomously in different companies that he oversees the strategy and oversees probably the quarterly results and numbers. So that's proper entrepreneurship there. That's proper business running, and to have success in a wholesaling business, in a virtual assistant business, in a coaching business, all at once, and to be running them for many, many years. That's pretty impressive, I gotta say, and I gotta tip my hat to Bob for what he's achieved. And he's clearly doing a serious volume of business. He's supporting a lot of people underneath him, and he's obviously making a difference with a lot of motivated sellers and transitioning and getting those properties into motivated owners. So there's a lot of impact you can make in the real estate business, and Bob Lachance is as good as an example as any of that. So well done to Bob, and best of luck with him for the next few years. I'm sure he's going to continue doing great things. Those businesses he did are very complementary, and they seem to be quite resilient to, in terms of whatever economy you're in, whether it's going up, down, or sideways. Those types of businesses are always going to continue generating revenue. So that's pretty smart from Bob's point of view. But other than that, thanks as always for tuning into the show. I'd love to hear from you guys. If you want to give me some feedback, if you want to, let me know how you're doing in your real estate journey. I generally set aside about 3 20-minute slots a week to answer any questions people have on their own investment decisions or their own real estate journeys. So just go to my website, colininvestments.com, COLIN investments.com, and click on Contact Me. You can also subscribe to the newsletter there. You can download some reports I wrote last year. You can obviously view previous episodes as well. So lots of stuff going on there. Thanks as always for tuning in. Please don't forget to leave me a rating or a review if you're enjoying this content, or sharing some of my clips on social media as well. That's a big help also. But other than that, I'm going to sign out, and I will look forward to chatting to you guys again in a couple of weeks' time with show 62. But until then, this is Colin G. Murphy signing out. Thanks, guys.